What's up, everybody? It's your good friend Lukie, and this is my new YouTube channel. Please subscribe to help me. Look on the screen. Don't be a reoccurring viewer. Only 25% of the people watching these videos are subscribing. Hit the bell icon. Subscribe now, please. What is up, everybody? It's your good friend Lukie, and we are back with a new episode of Boxing News Lives. Now breaking it into two segments, dose segments, and happy 4th of July to everyone. I want to share some of my best 4th of July memories, which are pretty much pure laziness. It's sitting around, it's going to a buddy's house. One year I ate 8 hamburgers. It's quite impressive, and I was very, very happy. No French fries, might I add. Every now and then I'll drink a light beer. Not too many, probably 1 or 2 at most. And one of my favorite things is to walk around at night and see the fireworks going off. It's a special thing, and kind of a weird tradition that maybe some might partake in. Watching the Twilight Zone marathons, though, as I get older, a little harder to watch the Twilight Zone. The modern technology is kind of aging out that telecast. But I want to take time to start this video to wish you a happy 4th of July, because it is a special time, and it's the halfway point. And maybe this week, on this vacation, me and Dakota will sit down and make the mid-year awards. So look forward to that. But right now, let's break down this week's fights. Biggest fight card of the week is Stanionis, the WBA secondary welterweight champion, because the WBA typically has about 2 to 3 versions of their belt. Obviously, the highest level of the belt, the upper echelon, is the belt that Errol Spence Jr. holds, that will be contested in the undisputed welterweight clash between himself and Terrence Crawford. The secondary champion is Stanionis. Stanionis took step-aside money to allow for Crawford and Spence to happen, so shout out to him. And in the meanwhile, Vergil Ortiz Jr., who's been one of these heavily touted prospects that people have had a lot of faith in, including Oscar De La Hoya of Golden Boy Promotions, his promoter, he was viewed as maybe the practitioner or the real deal when Ryan Garcia, a very popular fighter with a great amateur pedigree, was able to use algorithms and social media in a way to monetize himself. Vergil Ortiz was thought of as more of an old school fighter with possibly even higher upside than Garcia in terms of fighting ability. This is, outside of the Mean Machine fight for Vergil Ortiz, his first true test. Both fighters have had health conditions prior to this. Stanionis had to get his appendix removed. Vergil Ortiz, over the past year and a half-ish, maybe calendar year, has had issues with a disease that a lot of CrossFit athletes get when they get all buff and shredded because they're overtraining or training super hard with limited recovery. I can't say it. I know that a lot of people want to kind of insult him and his dad, which is not very cool. That's not very player. So they've made it to this point. But if you're a fight fan and you got nothing to do, I'm going to be in Pebble Beach watching the U.S. Women's Open. Go women's golf. We love to support the women's golf movement. This is the fight to see. This is the fight of the weekend. It's an evenly contested fight. Stanionis is a guy that a lot of pundits, I didn't take him serious at first. They wanted to compare him to the Boots Ennises of the world and the Vergil Ortizes. Guess what? He is in that level, and I think that people, to me, this is a 50-50 fight, maybe 52-48% fight. I think that a perception from a naive fight fan is this is just a blowout for Vergil Ortiz. This is a sneaky, could-be fight of the year type fight. It's kicking off the month of July with a great bang. And this is one that if you really, really love the sport of boxing and you want to see some great fights, you got to see this one. We also have Marlon Esparza on this undercard. I genuinely don't know much about her opponent. After that, we got Floyd Schofield. Floyd Schofield's taking on who I believe, unless the opponent changed, Lydell Rhodes. Lydell Rhodes, former Mayweather guy. I believe off the top of my head, he lost to Sergey Lipinets a while back, and that's kind of what started the Lipinets world title run, where he ended up fighting a guy named Kondo, I'll never forget, to win his world title, then lost to Mikey Garcia. Floyd Schofield, to me, looks like the real deal. He looks like if we were going to do a freshman faces in boxing, people who are going to be trendsetters, people who are going to be top fighters, big money fighters. Floyd Schofield checks all those boxes. He's fighting an experienced veteran, but he's being moved fast. He's calling out names. Him and his dad are very, very confident in what they present and have in terms of fighting ability. And I'm excited to see the future for him. So watch his fight. Also, Joseph Diaz Jr., he recently re-signed with Golden Boy Promotions. He's been battling with substance abuse issues over time. That's not me observing. That's him saying that himself on social media. He's taken on a sneaky tough opponent, Jerry Perez. Jerry Perez, former MT Promotions fighter. You'll say, what is MT Promotions? That was Leo Santa Cruz's promotional outfit. Didn't really go too far, but it was a thing, and a lot of LA fighters got opportunities from that. Jerry Perez's kind of apex mountain was fighting Frank Martin, who just happened to have a more complete skill set and kind of got him up out of there, which is unfortunate for Jerry, but great for Frank Martin. This will be Jerry's like kind of big moment to prove himself at this level. And for JoJo, he really needs some good performances to get him back to where he was maybe before the pandemic. JoJo beat Tevin Farmer, had a great performance against Gary Russell Jr., even though he lost. And he was looking as though he was going to be a superstar boxer. Since then, it's like the weight classes have been an issue. He lost a belt on the scale. His last fight was contested at 140, even though it was really supposed to be at 135. Loses to Mercito Hesta. There's a lot of speculation whether people think he lost it or not, but the result is the result. So JoJo needs a big performance on this card. Interesting people to look at. 2020 Olympic trials winner at basically essentially cruiserweight. They call it heavyweight. Darius Fulgham. He's a good fighter. And also Tristan, I can't say his last name, but the big tall heavyweight that has a loss to his record, he is on this card as well. Let's go over to Showtime now. Showtime will be putting forth a card with Vergil Ortiz's contemporary, his rival of the decade, the other welterweight, where everyone says, don't you dare make a fight between them right now. Force it 5 years from now, because heaven forbid we could have two of the best prospects fighting right now when it makes the most sense. Let's drag this thing along, because that's better for business. Even though all of boxing is saying the market has completely changed and we have to make the best fights right now when they're possible. Jaron Boots Ennis, one of the most exciting fighters in boxing. He's really hit a lull. His momentum is slowing down from the 2021 where he looked like he was the face of boxing, the emerging superstar. Fights once in 2021, which was a real buzzkill. Then 2022 gets on the tank undercard, goes 12 rounds, kind of lackluster performance against a guy who was just heavily avoidant in that fight. Karen Chudnotsky, I believe was his name. Now he's returning against Roiman Villa, a guy who fought on that same undercard, beat Rashidi Speedy Ellis. Now they're pitted against each other. It's a fight that was rumored. The problem is this fight is happening 6 months after that great performance. I get that fight dates are so selective and it's hard to get it. I also get that Boots Ennis wanted to main event a card, but really it would have been great if this could have happened in the 5th month of the year rather than the 7th month. I understand that I'm nitpicking here, but it just feels like Boots Ennis, for all the excitement we have around him, things are slowing down. The welterweight division is slowing down. Now it's picking up, but he needs more opportunities like this. He needs to be in front of people because he's a charismatic fighter and he's got a brilliant style that will draw people in. Roiman Villa is just a tough physical guy. He gets to the dance by being tough, physical, and throwing a lot of punches. This is going to tell a lot about Boots because on paper, Roiman Villa is tailor-made to lose to Jaron Boots Ennis. But how does Boots deal with this heightened responsibility of being a main event fighter, chasing down these bigger welterweights, and trying to live up to the potential and the ordained nature that he has been placed in the sport as one of the torchbearers going into the next generation? He is being looked at as a future pound-for-pound fighter and as a legend. How does he handle that? Because this is not unlike a fighter that we just saw, Jared Anderson, when he was in the main event spot. Boots Ennis is transitioning from being somewhat anonymous undercard guy to being responsible for putting on a successful show. How does that change anything about him? We will see. We have Joseph Adorno, who's had a major career resurgence with PBC, gets cut from Top Rank. He's lost a couple with PBC, but they keep bringing him back. He hits super hard. He's taking on Edwin de los Santos. De los Santos knocked out Jose Valenzuela. And Edwin de los Santos has just been on the back burner. He lost a fight to William Foster III on a showbox, upsets Jose Valenzuela, and it just feels like there were no plans for him. Sure, we could say, I believe I've heard some people like my guy Broadway Joe say that people are turning him down, but that's the nature of the beast. You got to get yourself out there to make yourself more desirable and coveted to get these big fights. It's unfortunate that he's been this inactive. To me, on paper, I think a lot of people look and say, Edwin de los Santos, this is a clear winner. He's definitely the favorite, but to me, this is two like-minded individuals. It depends on how hard Adorno hits at this weight class, because these guys have the exact same style. This is just going to be punch me, punch you, and see who can land the bigger shot. I think this is a very competitive co-main event, and it kind of falls in line with what Showtime has been doing over this summer schedule, where it's putting guys that maybe they don't know what to do with and matching them together and seeing if they can kind of create a new destiny for themselves. Speaking of that, the opener is fantastic. The opener might be the sneaky best fight of the weekend. Yoelvis Gomez, managed by Shane Shapiro. Very good fighter, a Cuban fighter who's being moved extremely fast-tracked guy. He's going to be taking on Marquis Taylor, who has more upset wins probably than any fighter not named Luis Alberto Lopez, because Luis Alberto Lopez is the king of the B-sides. But Marquis Taylor is a phenomenal fighter. Yoelvis Gomez, quite possibly, if he didn't get hurt for the Jason Rosario fight, probably would be in the Brian Mendoza spot in the sport of boxing. This is whoever wins this becomes the underdog no one's trying to fight, the talk of the Twitter streets fighter. This is the boogeyman of the division. Whoever wins this fight becomes the boogeyman, and then they should get some form of an opportunity. I think that a great realistic fight, I don't know if it would happen, would be against Erickson Lubin, who just won. If it's not Erickson Lubin, why not Sebastian Fundora if he doesn't fight Brian Mendoza? There's a lot of good fights here. I do agree that the 154-pound division isn't one of the strongest. It's actually closer to, like Kel Dansby said, cruiserweight. And that being said, I don't think you can discredit Jermell Charlo ever with his resume, because you fight who you fight, and he ran the gauntlet. Let's finish up some housekeeping. Diego Pacheco will be fighting on DAZN against Manuel Gallegos. He recently fought Richard Van Sicklen, our guy Vibes. Vibes probably won it. It was called a draw on ProBox TV. It was rather uninteresting and unexciting, to be honest. Diego Pacheco looks like a next-level talent. If Diego Pacheco is that next-level guy, this is going to be a showcase fight. This would be Pacheco's second somewhat showcase fight of the year. He went overseas, beat Jack Cullen. Now he's going to go to Mexico and more than likely beat up the Mexican fighter, Manuel Gallegos, because Diego Pacheco does everything Manuel Gallegos does, but he also uses distance and a bit of strategy on top of it. Diego Pacheco, to me, looks like one of the real deals in terms of prospects. He's sparring with David Benavidez, and it really feels like he's slowly leveling up to being a top-tier star in the sport. Feels like we're 2 to 3 years away from him kind of getting those really, really big opportunities. But right now, Diego Pacheco making the jump to a main event fighter. He filled in as the main event in his last fight, but this is his first true time being a main eventer. It is in Mexico. Undercard, we got some guys on there. I think the most interesting is Rocky Hernandez, a former world title kind of top tier guy who got knocked out in a round, I believe, in a title fight or a title eliminator to Roger Gutierrez. He's returning on this card. We also have some former champions returning off TV. Patrick Teixeira, he's going to be in action, as well as Luis Neri, which is interesting because it seems like Luis Neri is promoter agnostic because he's returning off television in Mexico. And that's kind of strange because you look and DAZN had a card in Mexico. It's kind of strange that Neri wasn't on the DAZN Mexico card. That is your week in boxing. Let me know if you like what I had to say or you think that what I said was reasonable. And I hope you enjoy the fights. I hope you enjoy your holiday. And I hope this contributed to some aspect of your day or just made it better.